Hello, my name is Russell Myers. Welcome to Issues Unite. So I had promised a video about the minimum wage, and this is that video. So right now we're having the fight for 15 going on, and it's not going as well as it should. So we had 8 so-called Democrats that voted against keeping the minimum wage increase in the rescue bill. Well, how is it rescuing workers if it doesn't increase their wages? They say it's inappropriate to keep it in this. They didn't want to put it in the budget bill. They claim that this doesn't affect the federal budget, when in fact it very clearly does. You know, if you increase the wages, you take more people off of public assistance, like people that work for Walmart and earn such low wages that they qualify for public assistance. Well, if you increase the wages, you take more people off of public assistance, which decreases the federal budget requirements. Of course, if they keep the wage low and take away more support for social programs, oh yeah, you can keep people desperate enough that they'll, try to work 4 jobs until they freaking die. But the fight, many sources say that even the fight for 15 is outdated, which I pretty much agree with. In today's economy, which I'm going to get to, but, many sources say $22 to $24 an hour would be a lot more appropriate, and I agree with that. So, but this fight for raising the minimum wage, it is a fight that will always continue as long as we are not fighting against the system that we have in place, which causes us to continue to need higher wages. So this is not a fight about, wealth distribution in any way. What this is a fight for, and they say, well, if you increase wages, then you'll increase prices. Why are you going to increase prices? And let's take a look at that. If you listen to people say, oh, well, the dollar still holds a lot of value, what they're talking about is the dollar in comparison on the international market to other currencies. It's not talking about the purchasing power of the dollar. The purchasing power of the dollar has declined by as much as 97% in the past century. I've seen many sources which compare the dollar today to 1 century ago. And back at that time, you could buy a loaf of bread for, varying sources, state different numbers, but they're all in the same range. You could buy a loaf of bread for 3 to 5 cents. Today, that same loaf of bread is going to cost you $1, $2, $3, $5. Why is this? It is because of the rise of corporatism. During this same time that prices have continued to increase, and most notably ever since the Reagan era, we've seen the rise of corporatism. And corporate investors demand ever higher returns on their investments. And this is how we have seen the flow of wealth to the top. You know, the top 10%, possess 80% of the wealth. And, so the rest is left to the bottom 80%, the top 10%, the bottom 90% are left with 20% of the wealth in this country. And this is not going to stop. The entire intent is for the top 1%, 0.1%, to possess 100% of the wealth in this country. Eventually, people will be working for nothing or so desperate that they will take any job at any wage, and at that point, the move will be to eliminate the minimum wage entirely, which, if you listen, you have many libertarians that are in favor of this concept. They will claim that, eliminating the minimum wage will increase wages. And there is no truth to that. They compare it to countries like Finland and so forth, which they do not have a standard legislated minimum wage, but they've got such strong unions that their wages are much higher than here, and yet their purchasing power is much stronger. You can buy more for the same amount. Even when I was young, a loaf of bread you could buy for 25 cents. And that same loaf of bread buys, that same 25 cents now costs far more. So if we're fighting for higher wages, what we're really fighting for is just sheer simple numbers, and ignore the actual problem that is involved. The flow of wealth to the top, the corporate control, the same corporations that are increasing prices for their demand for higher profits, higher dividends, are the same people that fight against lower wages and that will lay off thousands or tens of thousands of workers because they're not making enough money, even though they are posting these massive profits and buying back their own stocks. Again, this plays into the video I released the other day about how we don't need a stock market. If we eliminated the stock market and the demand for ever higher profits, ever higher dividends to investors, and converted all stocks into bonds, which are debt by a company, then they're going to be a lot more cautious, a lot more pragmatic, a lot more reasonable about what their demands are. If you buy a bond, it's got a set return value. So you eliminate all this volatility, It's not without its drawbacks, especially, if it was implemented at first, then, yeah, there would be some turmoil involved and a lot of fighting back from the capitalist investors that would resist this. The corporate media would absolutely have a meltdown, but this is what we need to do. In other words, what we need to do is increase the purchasing power of the dollar by eliminating that greed factor. Let me pause this. So this will not be an easy fight to wage. Some people may think that I exaggerated the danger to myself by even suggesting this. Make no mistake, my very suggestion of ending the stock market means I have effectively single-handedly declared war on Wall Street. In the history of this country, we have seen companies that squashed miners' protests, strikes, by sending in armed Pinkertons who shot people. We've seen, union busters, which still exist to this very day. Jimmy Hoffa disappeared and has never been seen again. When we talk about Wall Street, we're talking about people that will very readily destroy entire nations, slaughter millions of people. I am nothing to eliminate me. Would be, just not even a blip on their radar. So this has to be a movement for us to eliminate Wall Street. If we want to stop fighting for higher wages and increase our purchasing power, this is how we have to do it. Not by keep fighting for $15 now, and then in 2 years, 3 years, we're fighting for 22, and that will just lead to us continuing on to going to $30 an hour, $40, $50 an hour for a minimum wage, as the dollar buys less and less, and the wealth continues flowing to the top, and jobs are completely eliminated. If we do not stabilize this system and end the volatility, we will never stop fighting for higher wages. It will never happen. Eventually, there will be, fights in the street for the very few jobs that exist, and we will still be fighting with other Americans that talk about, you have to work for a living. We have to end this discussion by changing the system for the better, for something that helps us all. So please, share this video, talk about these subjects. Let's build this into a movement. Get the idea out there. Even if they manage to kill me, don't let the idea die. Once you've heard the idea, what you've seen cannot be unseen. So talk about this. We need to build this up as much as possible. So, We need to end the stock market and convert it all into a bond market. When you buy a bond, that company owes you. They owe you. So let's make it that way. Instead of letting it all continue to go up and up and up, let's just stabilize it. Kill this idea of perpetual infinite growth, which is unsustainable. All right. So again, share this video, talk about these subjects. If you can, please donate $1 a month to help expand the channel. Shout out to Wendy Chavez for donating again. I appreciate it very much. Like I say, every penny helps. And honestly, it just tells me that people are on board with these ideas. Even if you don't agree, at least it's worth the discussion with each topic that I cover. So, thank you again, Wendy, and I will see you in the next video.